We're taught that intelligence is something you're born with, a fixed number, something that doesn't change very much. But if that's true, why are there days when your mind feels razor sharp? Ideas connect instantly, conversations feel effortless, solutions seem obvious, and then a week later you walk into a room and forget why you're there. Same brain, same person, completely different level of performance. So what changed? Think of the smartest person you know. Now imagine your brain has access to a gear you rarely use. Not because it's hidden, not because you're incapable, but because most people spend their lives creating conditions that keep that gear offline. Today we're looking at the simple on-off switches that control how much of your brain power you can actually use right now. And once you understand them, you'll realize something surprising. Your potential isn't nearly as fixed as you've been led to believe. The first thing to understand is that your brain is not a finished product. It's constantly adapting. Every skill you've learned, every habit you've repeated, every problem you've solved over and over leaves a mark. The more often your brain uses a pathway, the stronger that pathway becomes. The less often it uses one, the weaker it becomes. In other words, your brain is constantly adapting to the life you're practicing, not the life you want. The life you repeat, that's actually good news. Because it means your current level of mental performance isn't permanent. It can change. But changing the hardware is only half the story, because two people can have similar brains and still think completely differently. That's where the software comes in. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to find opportunities everywhere, while others see obstacles in the exact same situation? It's not always because one person is smarter. Often, they're using different mental models, different ways of seeing the world, different frameworks for making sense of what's happening. Your mental models determine what you notice, what you ignore, what patterns stand out, and what possibilities never even enter your awareness. The difference between a beginner and an expert is often less about information and more about interpretation. The expert sees connections that other people miss, not because the information is hidden, because they're looking through a different lens. Which leads to an uncomfortable question. If our brains are adaptable and our thinking can improve, why do so many people feel mentally exhausted all the time? Most people assume they feel mentally slow because they're not smart enough. Usually that's not the problem. Imagine trying to have a conversation while 10 different people are talking around you. Eventually, your attention gives up, not because you're incapable, because there's too much noise. That's what many people do to themselves every day. Messages, notifications, videos, emails, constant switching between different streams of information. The issue isn't a lack of intelligence, it's interference. And removing that interference is the first step. But the third step I'm going to show you later is what changes the game long term. The first pillar of cognitive power is uninterrupted attention. Most people quit 5 minutes before their brain becomes useful. They work for a few minutes, check something, come back, get distracted, start over, and repeat. But deeper thinking rarely happens immediately. It happens after your attention stops fighting itself, when your mind fully settles into a task. That's when people enter what psychologists call flow. Athletes experience it, musicians experience it, writers experience it, programmers experience it. Time feels different, effort feels different, performance feels different. The strange part is that flow isn't rare because it's difficult. It's rare because uninterrupted attention has become rare. Now, this next one is where people usually get it wrong, because it sounds like magic. It isn't. The second pillar is intuition. Have you ever met someone and instantly felt something was off, even though you couldn't explain why, then later discovered you were right? Or maybe you've had a feeling about a decision before you had a logical reason for it. That's not magic. It's pattern recognition happening faster than conscious thought. Your brain notices far more than you're aware of. Tiny details, subtle inconsistencies, patterns you've encountered before. Sometimes it reaches a conclusion before your conscious mind catches up. The conscious mind gets most of the credit, but it isn't doing all the work. A huge amount of processing happens beneath the surface. And the more experience you gain, the stronger those pattern recognition systems become. The third pillar is fuel. This one's simple. A tired brain makes different decisions than a rested one. Attention drops, memory drops, judgment drops, problem-solving drops. Sometimes what feels like a lack of intelligence is really a lack of energy. No complicated health lecture required. Just remember this, your brain can only perform at its best when it has the resources to do so. Let's test something. A bat and a ball cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Most people instantly answer 10 cents. Take a second, think about it. If the ball costs 10 cents, the bat would cost $1.10. That makes the total $1.20, so the answer can't be 10 cents. The correct answer is 5 cents. Simple. But here's why that matters. The first answer wasn't stupidity, it was efficiency. Your brain generated the fastest answer available. Cognitive power often appears when you pause long enough to question the first conclusion. Sometimes intelligence isn't about thinking faster. Sometimes it's about thinking one layer deeper, seeing what other people rush past, recognizing possibilities hidden behind assumptions. That's a form of power too. And if the problem is that we're constantly rushing toward the easiest answer, then the solution has to start with giving our brains the space to actually think. So how do you unlock more of it? The first step is something I call a digital fast. 30 minutes, no phone, no videos, no music, no podcasts, no scrolling, no input. At first it feels uncomfortable, then something interesting happens. The noise begins to settle. Thoughts become easier to follow, ideas have room to develop. Many people haven't experienced genuine mental silence in years, and they don't realize how much it's costing them. The second step is cognitive training. One example is dual NVAC, a working memory exercise designed to challenge your ability to hold and manipulate information. Whether it's that learning a language, playing an instrument, or tackling difficult problems, the principle is the same. Challenge the system. Adaptation follows, yeah. The third step is radical reframing. This is the one most people overlook. And it's also the one I hinted at earlier. Every problem contains multiple interpretations. Most people get stuck because they assume the first interpretation is correct. What if the obstacle isn't blocking progress? What if it's exposing a weakness in the strategy? What if the failure isn't evidence that you're incapable? What if it's feedback? The quality of your thinking is often determined by the frame you're using. Change the frame, and entirely new solutions become visible. Here's the part most people miss. Your cognitive power isn't a fixed number. It's not a score. It's not a label, and it's definitely not a ceiling. It's a condition. Some days it's available, some days it's buried underneath noise. If your mind has felt slower lately, that doesn't automatically mean you've lost something. It might simply mean there's too much interference, and interference can be removed, which means clarity can return. You already have the hardware, the potential is already there. The question is whether you're creating conditions that allow it to operate at its best. So let me ask you something. What's one area of your life where you feel mentally stuck right now? Leave it in the comments and let's figure out whether the problem is a lack of ability or simply a gear that hasn't been engaged yet. You already have the hardware. Now start running better software, and I'll see you in the next video.